When you heard about this blockade that the United States is doing, what did you think?
I was wildly I thought I got to call Bobby is what I
Yeah.
thought. But I want to ask you about this because
Mm-hmm.
it, what is, my terms must be mixed up, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
Iran was not blockading; they were
No,
blocking.
no,
So
no.
what's happening?
So let's, so especially in the international community, international law, words matter.
Sure.
People have tried to bring up the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, right? And they're like, oh, the United States blockaded. No, we didn't. We had a quarantine. There's a reason they use that word, because those of us who know naval history and Navy regulations understand that a blockade is an act of war. Full stop. This is what I said when I saw this in my little morning briefing. I was like, blockades are act of war, meaning a blockade means you were denying access of legal seagoing vessels, especially in the international waterway. So for those who don't understand, international waters end 12 nautical miles from the land of another country, with exceptions in straits like the Strait of Hormuz, the Straits of Malacca and Southeast Asia. There are certain exceptions. The world, not the United States, not Iran, the world agreed on these things, right? And they kept revisiting it. And in the 80s, they really codified this, the rules of the road of driving a ship, period. Right. And so when this man said blockade, I was like, okay, well, it's obvious he does not have people who really know what the hell they're talking about around him. He just wants to sound tough, because you're basically saying blockade, and anybody, and this is a key thing, anybody that tries to run that blockade is now subjecting themselves to acts of war. So here's the hypothetical. China gets what, 40% of their oil from that area of the world or whatever?
Right.
Are you going to sit there and try to hijack and try to board a Chinese vessel?
Right.
Think about that. Or Russia, even though Russia has pipelines, let's say they decide to do it. Or India, or any other nation that has seagoers that go to that region. And then my next question is, if China is so hell-bent to get that oil, and they send the People's Liberation Army Navy, the plan is what it's called for short, to escort their tankers to go get it, and they have nothing to do with this, how does the United States Navy treat them?
Right. So if it's a blockade, that would signify China's entering the war.
Either inadvertently or purposely. Because understand, the last time the United States really did a legally allowed blockade was the Civil War. That even during World War II, we did different actions. We tried to blockade things, especially in the Battle of the Atlantic, but it was hard because of the German U-boats. So you got to understand that these terms matter. Them saying this, it sounds so tough, but once again, it's a lot of tough talk with very little understanding or action. That's number one. Number two, Iran did not just shut off the strait. There were ships that are allowed to go through if they do the things that Iran is saying is required. Now, is that wrong? Sure it is. Sure it is. But it's the same thing as if the United States shut off the Gulf of Mexico. The world may have a problem with it, but what you going to do about it? Seriously, if you were trying to get a ship that's going to go into the Gulf of Mexico and up the Mississippi River, for example, we can sit there and say that's illegal to stop it, but you have weapons, you have leverage. And the one thing that every military planner, when they war gamed this out, was they will try to block the straits. And to show you how desperate we are, right? They sent 2 destroyers this weekend, the Frank Peterson and the Michael Murphy, both destroyers, guided missile destroyers, 2 of our newest ships. We no longer have a native mine hunting capability in that area of the world. We decommissioned those ships and sent them back. However, destroyers have a capability where they can do that, limited, not nearly as well as the minesweepers and the mine hunters we had. Understand something, though. Even as they went, and the CENTCOM tried to basically tell us, oh, they went all the way through the straits. That obviously wasn't true because we saw the video of them turning around. The whole world saw it. But even if that was true and they cleared out a path through all the mines that are supposedly laid there, there is no guarantee that the ships that follow behind it will have the same clear path, because mines can shift. They move on purpose. They can move on accident. And again, some mines wait for a certain number of ships to go by, and then boom. What if you're that third or fourth ship that is counting? There's signature. It's so unpredictable. Unlike dealing with war on land, and I tell my Army buddies this all the time, the environment of the sea is constantly changing, and it gets a vote. And so when you say a blockade, the other piece of this too, Sam, is you have to have enough ships to do it. When we did this quarantine in the 60s and John McCain was sitting on the flight deck of an aircraft carrier, do you understand the United States Navy had damn near 600 ships? We have half that today.
Wow.
Half. Okay. And you had the actual manpower and iron ships to go do it. A sustained blockade will do two things. It will tire out a crew that's trying to maintain it, because they could be overwhelmed. And this is, of course, if ships are moving. And then the other piece of it too is it increases, and I've been saying this since the start, it increases the amount of miscalculation in a very tight space. Everybody talks about how small the Strait of Hormuz is. Imagine getting more ships in there trying to have this blockade and actual ships moving. Thankfully, and I know this is going to sound counterintuitive, thankfully, none of the ships are moving because they cannot get insurance to go through the strait.
Right.
And finally, the last piece of this is the ships that would be involved in this are going to be so far away from the entrance of the Strait of Hormuz because they got to stay out of the weapons range of the shore batteries that could shoot at them from Iran. No one's talking about that.
Well, that's a thing I was wondering about, because if Iran can blow up ships that go through, they can blow up our ships that go through, even the vessels that are sweeping mines, right? So,
well, yes, technically that's definitely a possibility. We have countermeasures. We have all these things that people are going to talk about, but it just takes one to get through. The thing about naval warfare that I think kind of gets lost in the shuffle, because everybody loves talking about war. You got video games and Call of Duty. Naval warfare is different because anytime a ship gets hit, it's a mass casualty. We're not talking about onesies, twosies. If a ship eats a missile in its starboard side, you're talking about right there, probably 60, 70, 80, 100 people dead, right? And you're still fighting to save the ship so it doesn't sink, so everybody else doesn't die. This is why countries historically, going all the way back to wooden sail days, do not like having their navies engage in conflict. It costs too much to make the ships. And when the ships are attacked, too many lives can be lost like that. And Trump's not thinking like that. No one's thinking like that. They're just trying to, we need to beat them in a submission. We need to do this. Okay. The second a U.S. ship gets hit by a mine, by a surface missile, whatever, it becomes front page news, period. It don't have to be the carrier. It can be a destroyer. It can be a freaking, a trash punt. But I'm telling you now, it has certain ramifications. And then the last thing I'll say about this particular piece of this is you are trying to basically wait out Iran. But Iran knows that the president of the United States worships money.
Right.
They know that's his true North Star. And they're like, we don't mind being broke. The question is, do you? And I'm telling you now, that answer is no, which is why he has done everything that they could come up with to try to juice the markets, to keep them afloat. But it's all artificial because there's no permanent solution. The markets know it, insurance companies know it, and the world knows it. The governments know it. So I just think this is just adding another layer of difficulty on something that should not be this difficult.
Right. It's essentially saying like, oh, Iran, you want to block the strait? No, we'll block the strait. But the end result is the same.